I know it's a ukulele, but that's the only thing I play. I wish I played piano or drums or the didgeridoo, but I only play the ukulele, so that's what I'm gonna do. And this is a little theme song for the Happiness Anonymous Share Show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Happiness Anonymous Share Show. It's Sunday, which means that we're all having a very relaxed day, hopefully. If you're in Edinburgh right now, you're probably not having a relaxed day. It's probably just a day of really weird where you feel like you should be relaxing, but you're not. But I hope everybody in Edinburgh is having so much fun. I've been stalking the Instagrams and the not Twitter, I'll be honest, but I've been stalking everybody who's been using the hashtag Free Fringe or hashtag EdFringe, and I've been looking on in absolute envy at what everybody is doing in Edinburgh, but also such excitement at all of the virtual shows and seeing so many people engage with the Fringe that wouldn't otherwise do that, and it's made me really, really grateful. So I guess today I'm checking in Smushy. That's what I'm gonna check in Smushy. Check in. How are you doing today? Comment section, wherever it may be, wherever you are watching it, and this. But go into the comment section, check in. How are you doing today? I'm very excited. What I'll be doing is alongside this, outside of my recording in just a minute, I'll be typing away and just keeping an eye on things. So don't mind me. But hello everybody. Yes, I'm very excited. It's the end of the first week of doing the Happiness Anonymous Share Show as part of 21's EdFringe thing, virtual Free Fringe. Thank you. I'm still not getting that. Still not getting their hand right because it's all flipped on my screen. Thank you to the PBH Free Fringe for deciding to go virtual and deciding to say, you know what, nothing's going to stop us, and really taking on the Ed Fringe mentality to be able to facilitate this and be virtual and let people join. And I'm now a big fan of a show and a comedian and a spoken word person in Malaysia. It's amazing. It's absolutely fantastic. So thank you to that, and thank you to anybody and everybody who's watched along up until this point. I'm feeling very smushy, very smushy, which is kind of leading into the next podcast. So every Sunday, and I've been doing this just before the Fringe as well, every Monday for the last however long, I have been releasing the Happiness Anonymous podcast, which is essentially, for anybody who hasn't watched it or hasn't watched any of these other live streams that go along with it, it is trying to share bite-sized snippets to this idea of happiness and kind of giving my own share each week. And it started because Happiness Anonymous is actually a theatre show. It's a one-woman show. It is my absolute baby. I've spent basically 8 years now. Whoa, it's getting on. I've spent a large portion of my life writing this thing. It started as a response just as I left university, so it's probably longer than 7 or 8 years. We're going to ignore that. It started as a response to a friend turning around and going, you have a phobia of zombies? What? You know what? You should do a solo show where you turn yourself into a zombie. And I went, nah, and I blew it off. And then, I don't turn myself into a zombie in the show, but it is set in a post-apocalyptic world where zombies roam the earth, which makes it very fun to perform because I do legitimately have a phobia of zombies, and there are zombie noises throughout all of it. So if anything, when you get the chance to see that theatre show, come watch me wig out for an hour. But as part of that, I did a huge amount of research and reading and thinking and talking into this idea of happiness. And this idea and this title, Happiness Anonymous, came out of it because I just thought, as I explained at the beginning of this week, I just wanted a support group like you get with substance abuse or any other kind of addiction. I just wanted a support group like that, but for happiness. And I got very, very obsessed with that idea and created Happiness Anonymous as a thought project, and then was writing the show and did a lot of writing and a lot of research into it, and ended up realizing that I had read too much and done too much research and had too many theories in my head, and that my theatre show was boring, dull, and just not something I'd want to watch because of it. Because I was trying to pack into it was turning into a TED talk rather than a theatre show, which no. So what I did is I created the Happiness Anonymous podcast, where I am putting all of those tidbits and tips, and I'm reading, and I'm still reading because it's now, after so many years, a habit. And also a genuine interest that I have is this idea of mental health and stability and how our brains and minds work. So the Happiness Anonymous podcast was created for that. And it's somewhat morphed from that also into this idea of becoming somewhat of a journey and a diary. So it is also, what have I done for happiness? What have I applied? How am I still moving in this journey towards whatever this thing is that we call happiness, or contentment, or peace, or joy, whatever it is, and whatever that word means to you. And so that ended up inspiring the Happiness Anonymous Share Show. So that's how we got here today. But I'm going to stop rambling, because what I also do is what I've been doing for a few weeks now is I come on every Sunday and I live stream the recording of the Happiness Anonymous podcast. So anybody who follows me directly and anybody who likes the Share Show and can join in for a few hours on a Sunday evening, they get to see a preview of what becomes the podcast tomorrow morning or tomorrow. And then tomorrow night, what I'll be doing is I'll be showing that and talking about that episode and giving more thoughts to it. So, this episode's very, very smushy. Thank you for everybody who's watching. Welcome. Hello. How's your Fringe been doing? Also, whack into the comments if you have actually seen any really good free Fringe shows or normal Fringe shows. Whack into the comments. Sharing is caring. I want to spend any waking hour that I'm not doing this show or sleeping. So waking hour. I want to be watching other people's work because it brings people joy, or sadness, but there's a joy in that as well. Cool. So I'm going to stop replying to people in the comments section, and I'm going to start the podcast. So, right, every week I do a backup recording on my phone, despite the echoey room. So if you ever hear echoey, that means that something glitched out. Right. Just forgotten the title. What's the title? Oh no, I've got my notes in front of me and I don't have the title. Oh, we're just going to improvise. No, it's fine. It's fine. We know what we're doing. It's the importance of putting yourself out there and getting out there. I'll stop hacking on about that next week. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Anonymous podcast. How are you all today? My name is Jem, and today I'm checking in really, really smushy. I'm checking in really, really touched and moved and exhilarated and inspired. And I'm going to put that all into one word and call it smushy. How are you? For anyone who hasn't been aware, I have been doing the Edinburgh Fringe Festival for the last week as part of PBH Free Fringe. And I've been doing it virtually. I've been doing it online with a show that is very, very dependent and very, very reliant on other people contributing to it and giving their shows. It's called the Happiness Anonymous Share Show. And one day I'll say anonymous with all of its syllables. But the Share Show was very much a thought of mine to say, let's give everybody a platform to share what they think about happiness and contribute, and also give people the space, time, and place to creatively respond to that idea of happiness. And it's open to anybody to contribute, and anybody who wants to put in a share, just reach out. There are links in all of the descriptions of wherever you are listening to this. But the one thing that I really was nervous about, and this is what this episode is about, is it relies on other people. And also, I thought I would do the Virtual Fringe this year as a pre-recorded item and a pre-recorded show, and just have it on YouTube and just promote it whenever I felt like it, and essentially protect myself from this idea that nobody might be watching at any one point. And when you live stream, which is what I've been doing, there is a big count number in the top left-hand side of your screen that tells you how many people are viewing your show at any one time. And that is something that is quite pressurized. And when I realized that that is something that is included in the experience for me of doing this show, I got quite nervous. And that's because here's a show that is reliant on other people contributing and liking your idea. And then here's a show that is actually needing an audience. And that is something that at the Edinburgh Fringe you need anyway, right? You need to go and kidnap yourself an audience. And I'm quite good at doing that. But, you know, the virtual world is a little bit more fickle than that. So I was quite nervous, and I nearly talked myself out of it. But then I decided, you know what, you got to put yourself out there. You've got to go. You've got to go for it. You've got to do it. And that's what last week's episode of this podcast was on about. It was on about, it's very much Shia LaBeoufing its way into saying, do it. Just go and do it. Just go and do it. And I've very much decided not to be a hypocrite and actively do that. And so this episode forms sort of part of a series or a response to the last episode, because I want to talk about this idea of getting yourself out there and putting yourself out there, and actually how at the end of a week of doing that, you will feel smushy. Because what I expected, my theory, as it were, if you're talking in sort of scientific terms, the thesis I wanted and hoped to disprove was that if I do a show that is reliant on other people's content and is also live, that nobody will be interested in sharing and nobody will watch. Now, I have not gotten hundreds of views. Frankly, I don't think I could cope with that. But I have gotten views, and I have gotten so many shares that I'm so excited to share them with everybody. And I'm having to reschedule and look at my schedule to try and make sure that everything that everybody has put time into has a place and a space within the show. And I'm so lucky to be able to have that problem. And I'm very taken by the amount of effort that people have put in. I thought people might just say, fine, I'll just rant into a camera for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and that will be it. Good luck, Jem. But no, I've discovered that if you do and follow the advice of my last podcast, then you can be very, very surprised by the outcome and very touched by the outcome. And even if it's just a handful of people who are interacting with you daily, which, hello, everybody who's been watching the show daily, that has been incredibly impactful for me personally, and I really want to thank you for that. But one of the other things that I did for the show as well was I practiced what I preached in the last episode and went, okay, well, what is one of the things that I've wanted to do for a very long time, but I've never done, and ultimately I've just been putting things in my own way, and that's this idea of making music. I'm not a musician. I have very little musicality, quite a lot when it comes to dancing, but I think that's just response. That's not creation. But I've always had these secret fantasy dreams of being Stevie Nicks, whether that's just the fashion or the rock lifestyle. I don't know, but I've always wanted to, sing. And yeah, so I decided, you know what is actually stopping you? Because we have technology that means that we can actually create tracks without being a musician. And I did. And I created a song, and I wrote my first song that wasn't just a little tune on a ukulele played badly, or a little jokey song, or something that was relegated to the pits of a notebook. And I made the song, and I put it out there, and it made me so nervous and so uncomfortable, but in an exhilarating way, that was exciting to begin with. But then I got people turning around and saying, it's not something that's like the quality of someone who's been doing this for years, but that's good. And I got a positive response. And frankly, any of the negative responses, I didn't really pay attention to. They didn't matter, because at least one person turned around and said, that was good. That was, I enjoyed that. And it really was empowering. It really was emotionally impactful and a massive confidence boost. And, a reminder that you don't have to be scared. You don't have to be worried all the time about what people are going to think about you. Because even if it hadn't had a really good response, even if it was a piece of crap, which frankly it could be, and frankly future things might be, just because the thing that I want to also include is that whether people had liked it or not, I wouldn't have cared, because I was so proud that I'd done it. I had written a song. I'd done the thing that I'd wanted to do for years, and I enjoyed doing it. I loved doing it. I had so much fun. And so this is kind of a response to the last episode, in saying, I'm not just going to sit there and preach at you and say, hey, do it. Or, I very much practice what I preach. I very much listen back to these podcasts and say, okay, well, how can I apply that as if this was being said to me by a third party? Which a lot of it is, by the way. A lot of it I hear and get from the ether and then share to you, and then it forms this wonderful little cycle of improvement and active doing. And I did. And if any of you are sat there last week and thought, yeah, but this reason and that reason and this reason and that reason, and or just sort of went, well, I am scared, and that's totally fine. I'm going to encourage you to try and do it again, because even if that thing never gets to see the light of day, you will know that you've gone and crossed something off your bucket list. It will be a point of pride, no matter its quality, no matter its outcome. And it's kind of like a few years ago, I ran a blog. I started when I was at university, and every week I published something. And I realized the power of publishing, and I preach it to absolutely every creative and absolutely everybody that I know, is this idea of regularly publishing something, regularly completing something, regularly doing something is so absolutely empowering, because it's a reminder of your ability and your capability and your impact. And it just feels good to finish something and do something. And so even if you don't go and publish it to the world, because whatever it is that you're wanting to do doesn't have to be on a public stage. I think we often forget with social media that our lives don't have to be out there. And I know I very much am against this idea of putting absolutely every part of your life on the internet, though I see how it exhilarates and works for other people. But for me, this idea that you can do something and create something or whatever it is that you wanted to do, that thing that came to your mind during last week's episode, that thing that comes to your mind now is, I say, what is the one thing that you've always wanted to do but have never done? If you haven't watched or listened to last episode, I encourage you to go, because I gave tips on how to really dig deep into and find the reason why something hasn't been done or why you haven't moved that thing from the to-do list over to the done list. But I can thoroughly recommend doing it and getting it done, because the pride that you will have of yourself and in yourself is immense. And I'm somebody who very much chases the pride of other people and the acceptance of other people. I'm working on it, but I'm a people pleaser, and I want other people, especially the people I love, to be proud of me. But I can tell you now, every time that somebody has been proud of me, it ain't got nothing on the pride I feel for myself right now, because I made a 3-minute song out of loops of music I found on the internet, wrote some lyrics, sang it into this microphone that I'm speaking into now, and made a song. And that's mine. That's mine forevermore. So if you want to hear that song, Friday's episode of the Happiness Anonymous Share Show included it at the end, which made me so nervous. But it's on the internet now, because that is part of my process, and that's part of my happiness, I guess, is making content for all of you guys. I refer you to the Bo Burnham song content. But thank you everybody for listening. I this is kind of a check-in. It's a long check-in about this idea, and it's hopefully something that means that you will continue to be inspired. And once you've done the one thing, move on to the next. Do the next thing and just have fun doing it. And put yourself out there, because if your fear is acceptance, there's a lot more acceptance in the world than you think. And there are unexpected people waiting around the corner to celebrate you and to celebrate what you can do. And yeah, share it with me. I really, really want to see what you do. And I want to see what is that close to you. And I'll continue to do the same. So thank you everybody for listening. Have an amazing week. This is just your friendly reminder that I am not a professional. I am just a girl on a mission trying to figure out this thing we call happiness. If you do need help or want someone to talk to, reach out to the heroes listed in the description of this podcast. Stop. There you go. Save. Yes. Yes, that's saved. Name it so that it's not just new recording 31. Happiness Anonymous. Smushy. I'm just gonna call it Smushy. And then not know what that is in 3 weeks' time. That's fine. It'll be out then. That'll come out tomorrow. And it'll have some artwork. And it'll be fun. And it'll be on this show tomorrow evening. So if you want to have some thinking time and then come back to it, do that. And we'll be talking about it tomorrow evening. It's exciting. Yes. Whack into the comment sections what you think about that as well. Have you done something this week that you've always wanted to do? You know, even if it's just writing 3 lines of poetry, or whatever it is, tell me what it is. You don't even have to tell me what it is. You just gotta say, yes, I did it. And just fill the comment section with yes, an ominous yes. But whilst you do that, I am going to close this episode here and now. Thank you everybody for joining. Also, before we go, it's the last day of the charity fundraiser that I'm doing for Mind Charity, right? So each week I'm doing 3 weeks of the Happiness Anonymous Share Show. Each week I am generating money. If you've enjoyed this show, if you've tuned in at any point and you have the means and you want to, please reach out to the link that is in the description. There you go. It's a donate with Just Giving that I've set up just to raise funds for Mind Charity. And Mind Charity is a charity here in the UK that works towards facilitating and putting in processes and infrastructure and support for mental health. So it is incredibly broad, but they work to create programs, they work to support people, they've got lots of helplines and lots of resources. I thoroughly recommend you go and check out what they do if you don't know anything about it. If you don't want to contribute to Mind Charity, whack a charitable donation to whatever cause is close to your heart. So long as it works for kindness and it works for joy, and works for world kindness, I think is my thought. But yeah, go and give a little bit to the world, because usually with the Free Fringe, at the end of the shows we have a bucket and we do the bucket speech, which is usually, you know, it's free to get in but not free to get out, and we ask for donations, any change in your pocket, and that's how the Free Fringe works. But instead of doing that, because I don't have any reason to be needing to get money, which is incredibly privileged and fortunate on my part, then please, my bucket is for charity. My whole ethos and the whole point of the show is to facilitate sharing. And so please go share if you can. If you can't, go share a link, start a fundraiser of your own, do something to help other people, or just help yourself. That'll be good enough. Is go and have half an hour of mindfulness or something and take a bath with bubbles and special soap. But thank you everybody for joining. I will see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. and we'll see what kind of party we can have then. If you want to know what else is coming up on the show as well, all over my social media, all over this show's social media, and I will post it right after this show as well, is the running order and list of what we're doing, because it's a different show every day, which keeps it fun, keeps it easy, and I'm very, very excited for this week's set of shows, including Thursdays. I'm very excited. I'm stretching for it already. Yes. But do join, and thank you everybody for listening. Have an amazing night, and yeah, take care.